So, Bankai. As one of the most exciting and heavily discussed elements of Bleach, it's something we've talked about a lot on this channel over the years, and the fact is that despite the limited time he had, Kubo did an admirable job in revealing as many of these ultimate abilities as he could before the series came to an end. But the truth is there is still a load of Bankai we have never seen, and plenty of characters left to show them. The end of the year always feels like a good time for these roundup style videos, so this time I wanted to do a roll call of sorts to identify all the characters who theoretically should have a Bankai and yet haven't revealed it by the end of the series, the light novels included. I also want to briefly gauge how likely it is we will see their Bankai in the future and how and where it could happen. Before we get started on the video, guys, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure to do that now for more Bleach content like this every single week. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up as well to help support me and the channel. And if you want to take that support for me another step further, I do also have a Patreon as well. And as always, I just want to give a massive shout out and a huge thank you to each and every one of you supporting me over there on Patreon. I really do appreciate it. And of course, by the very nature of this video, there will be full spoilers for the entirety of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, and possibly some of the light novel Can't Fear Your Own World ahead. So I think the easiest way to do a video like this is to break it down by generation. Look at the different iterations of the Gotei 13 across all the different eras of Bleach that we know of, and identify the different characters within them that should have a Bankai and that were never revealed. And so to kick things off, let's take a look at the current generation of the Gotei 13 as of the Hell chapter. Now, within this generation of the Gotei 13, I think there are 3 characters that should have a Bankai that have never been revealed. And of course, those 3 characters are the brand new captains who were promoted as of the end of the 1000-Year Blood War arc to fill those empty seats that were left over by the battle. Those characters, of course, are the captain of the 4th Division Isane Kotetsu, the captain of the 7th Division Tetsuzaiman Iba, and the captain of the 8th Division Lisa Yadamaru. Now, theoretically, all of these characters should have a Bankai, as that's one of the major requirements to actually becoming a captain. However, it's a new era, it's a new dawn on a brand new version of the Gotei 13. There is a new head captain in command, and Kyoraku Shinsui has been shown to freely and willingly go against the staunch traditions of the Gotei 13 in order to facilitate this newer generation. So it's possible he placed more value on the idea of having those empty captain seats filled rather than those officers each having learned Bankai in time. Now, that's not to say they haven't learned Bankai by the time we see them after that 10-year time skip at the end of the series. So it's likely then, given their newfound positions as captain, that all 3 of these characters have Bankai, no matter how hard it might be to believe for characters like Isane and Iba. Of these 3 characters, the most likely one to have a Bankai, in my opinion, is Lisa. After all, she was a vice captain over 100 years ago, and presumably was training during her time in exile for the inevitable battle against Aizen. We've seen her Shikai Haguro Tombo in action, we've seen it being used in a battle situation at least a couple of times, and so in my opinion it's most likely that out of these 3 characters we will see Lisa's Bankai, and if that's gonna happen, it'll be in a potential Hell arc in the future. When approaching this topic, Isane and Iba are such weird outliers, however. Isane, we know what her Shikai looks like, we know its name, Ite Gumo, it's only seen once in the series for the briefest of seconds, and it's never seen again. Is she going to have a Bankai? Are we ever going to see it? In my opinion, it really feels unlikely, unless there is a fully fledged Hell arc in the works, where Kubo might want to show off what all of the current generation of captains can do. That might be the only time we get to see it. Iba is even stranger in my opinion, because we've actually seen his Shikai on numerous different occasions, but we have no idea what its name is, what it can do, anything like that. He is a totally unique case among the Gotei 13. Going back to this idea, however, that they may have been promoted just to fill these gaps left over from the war, despite not having the necessary training to do so, I kind of feel like this is reinforced by Iba in chapter 685, when he mentions to Hitsugaya that he doesn't feel like he belongs among the rest of the captains yet, that he's not strong enough yet, that he still has to train each and every day before he can finally feel worthy of that rank. In my opinion, that could be a way of him saying he doesn't actually have a Bankai yet, but he's working on it actively so that he can finally feel like he's worth the rank he holds, but without more information, it's difficult to know for sure. So I guess basically what I'm trying to get at is all three of these characters are in a really weird situation right now. Certainly if they have a Bankai, I would absolutely love to see it. So that's basically it for the current era of characters. Now if we go over to the original generation of the Gotei 13 that we started out the series with, there are two characters that we are missing Bankai for. The captain of the 5th division, Sosuke Aizen, and the captain of the 13th division, Jushiro Ukitake. Let's begin with Ukitake, as I believe he is a simpler case of the two of them. We've never seen his Bankai, and I released an entire video theorizing what I think his Bankai could actually be, and I do plan on doing more of these videos for individual characters in the future as well. The big problem with Ukitake is that he doesn't really get any time to show off a potential Bankai in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc whatsoever, so without serious rewrites to his overall character arc, I don't think there's any chance of them adding it into the anime. Now, of course, that does leave us with the Hell chapter, where it seems to hint at least anyway that Ukitake might have some kind of an important role to play now that he's been cast into Hell following his death. If that is the case, I mean, it seems like the perfect opportunity for Kubo to actually finally reveal what this character's Bankai is. And to be honest, if the Hell arc is a thing, and personally I think it probably is, I mean, basically I'm just very hopeful that's the case, but if it is the case, I think the chances of seeing Ukitake's Bankai are pretty good overall. Aizen is a weirder one. Now, of course, one of the prevailing theories surrounding Aizen is that he doesn't have a Bankai at all, that he used Kyoka Suigetsu to trick everyone into thinking he had a Bankai so he could become a captain without it. This is certainly plausible. It would fit Aizen's deceptive nature. It would also fit his arrogance as well, that he doesn't feel it necessary for him to have a Bankai in order to become a captain. However, I've just never personally bought this argument because, in my opinion, despite Aizen's arrogance, despite the fact that he definitely does have a god complex of sorts, a superiority complex, the thing with Aizen is he often has the skills to back it up, and he knows it. And I don't think that Aizen would consider himself having reached the peak of what it means to be a Shinigami, of having nowhere further to go, if he didn't already have a Bankai. And yeah, it does feel very strange, because as he's battling Isshin, you know, he says, I've reached the limit of my Shinigami self despite not having used a Bankai at all. It is all very strange where Aizen is concerned. I personally do choose to believe, however, that he has a Bankai to show. And again, I really don't think it's likely to be shown off in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc anime. Aizen's involvement is minimal at best, although he does get a fight, of course, right at the very end of the series. So if they wanted to slip an Aizen Bankai reveal in there, I absolutely wouldn't say no. But again, we go back to this ever-looming prospect of a potential Hell arc, and I have a hard time imagining that Aizen wouldn't be involved in that in some capacity, so there's always a chance we might get to see a Bankai for him there as well. If we move on now to the generation of the Gotei 13 seen in the Turn Back the Pendulum mini-arc, this is 110 years prior to the main storyline, there are quite a large number of characters here that should have a Bankai, but we've never seen it. The first one being, of course, the captain of the 2nd division, Yoruichi Shihoin. Now, I think there can be no questioning this character does have a Bankai. The big question is, will we ever see it? And I think the answer has to be a resounding no. It's just not in Yoruichi's nature to use her Zanpakuto no matter the situation, even if there are times where I think it would have been viable to use. Now, I believe in Can't Fear Your Own World it is Yoruichi mentions something about not getting on with her Zanpakuto, or that she's actually weaker if she does use it. I have a hard time buying that, but I mean, if the character herself is saying it, it's difficult to really argue with it. That being said, I think no matter what the case is, no matter what the fight is, Yoruichi will always choose hand-to-hand combat over using her Zanpakuto, and the case in point is that we've never even really seen her wielding a Zanpakuto at all. So unfortunately, even if there is a Hell Arc in the works, I don't think Yoruichi's Bankai will be revealed there either. Although, of course, as always, I'd love to be wrong, but really we need to see a Shikai first. Up next, we have the captain of the 6th Division, Ginrei Kuchiki, Byakuya Kuchiki's grandfather, another character who plays a slightly weird role in the overarching world of Bleach, in that he just disappears after this arc. We've never seen him again. Now, of course, it's possible he's retired, it's possible he's dead. If he's dead, I think that means we have a better chance of seeing his Bankai. Of course, much like Yoruichi, Ginrei is a character whose Shikai we've never seen either. We've never even seen him in a battle situation before as far as the actual canon manga series goes. So I think any chance of seeing Ginrei's Bankai has to be absolutely minimal. Of course, again, going back to this idea of a potential Hell Arc, if Kubo is using the concept of this arc to bring back deceased captains and possibly put them in an antagonistic role, it's a great opportunity to say that Ginrei died at some point and now he's back as a villain and show us everything he can do. I can just imagine a fight between Byakuya and Ginrei in the Hell Arc. That would be so awesome to see. Then we have the captain of the 7th Division, Aikawa Love, a member of the Vizards, one who didn't return to the Gotei 13 after the battle with Aizen. If I'm being completely honest, I feel like there have been a couple of instances where we really could have seen Love's Bankai by now already. Hindsight, I know, is 2020, but were I able to rewrite that battle with Stark, I would have had Love reveal his Bankai there, have Stark overpower it to really show us how powerful the Primera Espada actually is, and then have Ukitake be the one to defeat him using his Bankai, because of course Kyoraku gets a nice fight later on anyway. But of course, like I said, that's all in hindsight now. That could have been a good chance to see Love's Bankai. The battle against Gerard could have been a good chance to see Love's Bankai. But of course, being a Vizard means that his fate is never going to be pretty, and he's defeated in a single hit. The 1000-Year Blood War arc anime could potentially bail us out here. I would love to see the Vizard actually do something of note against Gerard, rather than simply being swatted away, which always felt completely absurd to me. Gerard's attack against them never even felt that severe to me. It seems like he hits characters like Hitsugaya and Zaraki with considerable more force later on, so for Captain Class Vizards like Love to be taken out in a single hit always felt really weird, and if the anime wanted to extend that fight and maybe give us Love's Bankai, I would be all for that. If not, then of course, as always, there is still the chance for the Hell Arc in the future. However, considering Love didn't come back to the Gotei 13, it means his screen time by nature is probably going to be severely shortened in comparison to those characters who did actually return to their previous ranks. Plus, Love really feels like one of those tertiary supporting characters that Kubo's just not that into. So I actually don't have great hopes for seeing Love's Bankai at any point in the future. I kind of feel like the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime may be our best shot. Then of course we have the 10th Kenpachi and the captain of the 11th Division at the time, Kenpachi Kiganjo. Now Kiganjo may actually not have a Bankai at all, as he presumably killed the 9th Kenpachi to get the position that he has. So it's highly possible he will never have a Bankai, we'll never see it, and that's absolutely fine. Again though, it's highly possible that he will be resurrected if a Hell Arc ever does actually happen. We could see what he can do there. We get the tiniest glimpse of his Zanpakuto in that double-page colour spread that Kubo did of the Turn Back the Pendulum Gotei 13, so presumably Kubo's got some idea of what this guy's power set is. If the anime wants to go totally crazy, they could potentially reveal some of his powers next week, as we will hopefully see the moment Zaraki arrives and kills this guy. I would be all for that. But I think as far as characters go, Kiganjo is pretty low down on our chances of actually ever seeing a Bankai. And then finally, for this era of the Gotei 13, we have one that's a little bit weird, a little bit dubious, being the captain of the Kido Corps Tessai Tsukubishi. Now, we know next to nothing about the Kido Corps in general. Does Tessai even wield the traditional Zanpakuto? Even if he does he have a Shikai and a Bankai? We've got next to no answers whatsoever. And so, that being said, whether Tessai has a Bankai or not, this is just a character who I would love to see a bit more of in general. I will be really interested to see if the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime finds a place for Tessai to come in at some point, because he never makes an appearance in this arc, which is really, really strange. The last time we see Tessai in the original series is in the Lost Agent arc. Next, we have to race along the timeline to 20 years prior to the main storyline, bringing us, of course, to the generation of the Gotei 13, seen in the Everything But the Rain flashback. And there's only one character here, outside, of course, of Aizen, being the captain of the 10th Division, Isshin Shiba. Isshin, much like Ukitake, is a character who I have done a specific Bankai theory video on, and actually, the optimistic side of me thinks there is a pretty good chance we will get to see Isshin's Bankai at some point in the future. My main reason for saying this is because it is explicitly teased in the 1000-Year Blood War arc and then never revealed, which makes me think this is something Kubo actively wanted to introduce, probably in the same arc, but simply ran out of time and opportunity to do so. During the Everything But the Rain flashback, Aizen, hiding of course with his Ryatsu concealing cloak, slices Isshin across the back because he explicitly doesn't want him to use Bankai, saying that Isshin's Bankai takes a heavy toll on his body, and with a wound that deep, there's no way he'll be able to activate it. Isshin actively confirms this by later on thinking to himself that with the wound he now has, he can't concentrate his Ryatsu enough to use his Bankai. I mean, that is just such an explicit tease that it really feels to me like Kubo wanted to get this thing into the manga at some point, but was simply unable to. So I have a feeling there's a decent chance we'll see it. Whether the anime will get the chance to include this in there at some point as part of an extended sequence or not, I don't know. I would love if that actually happened. If not, I would say there is a great chance of Isshin using it in any potential future material. Next up, we have the Zero Division, all of whom are former captains and all of whom should have access to Bankai, except for maybe one of them who we'll get into a little bit later. So of course, we actually do get to see Ichibe's Bankai, so that's 1 out of the 5 down. However, Korinji Tenjiro, Kiryu Hikifune, and Senjumaru Shutara should all also have Bankai that we have yet to see. Of these 3 characters, we do at least get to see Tenjiro's Shikai. We hear its name, Kinpika, that we have no idea what it can actually do. As for the other 2, their Zanpakuto are a complete non-entity. They are a total mystery. So is there any chance that we actually get to see their Bankai at all? I'm really not sure. The best opportunity we will have, I think, is in the 1000-Year Blood War anime if they hopefully extend the battle between the Zero Division and the Schutzstaffel. One of my most desired changes to the source material is to get that fight extended, to actually see what the Zero Division can do in a battle to the death, see them pull out all the stops against these extremely powerful enemies. Asking for and hoping for a Bankai for all 3 of these characters might be a little much, however. That feels like a bit of a stretch. At most, I would maybe hope to see their Shikai in the anime. Bankai, however, that's definitely quite a lot to ask in what's probably still going to be a fairly limited amount of time. And so again, that just leads me to hope that these characters are included in future material, and I really hope they are, because I do like the Zero Division, I find them to be fascinating, I find the scenes with them, as short as they are, in Can't Fear Your Own World, which of course acts as a direct sequel to the 1000-Year Blood War, to be really interesting stuff, so I'm always up to see more of these guys, especially if that includes their unrevealed Bankai. But of course there's one other member of the Zero Division that we haven't talked about yet, who I alluded to at the start of this segment, being of course Nimaya Oetsu. Oetsu's a very, very strange character when it comes to Zanpakuto queries. Being the creator of the idea of the Zanpakuto, being the creator of the Asauchi, being the god of the sword, who knows all Asauchi, knows where every single blade he has ever created has gone to, Oetsu feels like a real special case when it comes to the traditional idea of a captain and their Zanpakuto. It feels to me like Oetsu has control over an innumerable amount of blades, to the point where I go so far as to wonder if this captain even has his own personal sword or not. A big theory for a while was that Mera Girl was actually going to be Oetsu's personal Zanpakuto, but that didn't seem to come to pass, or at the very least we didn't see it. Instead, when the Schutzstaffel invaded the royal palace and Oetsu had the chance to pick any weapon he liked, he went for a blade that he considered to be a failure called Sayafushi, which was so impossibly sharp it could cut anything and kill his enemies in a single hit. So I mean, that's fair enough, like you would choose a weapon like that if you've got these supposedly really dangerous and threatening invaders stepping upon your holy ground. But it still feels weird to me that if Oetsu does actually have a Zanpakuto that he calls his own, that he wouldn't have brought that to the battlefield instead. No, instead to me, Oetsu feels like the forger of these blades who doesn't actually have one he considers to be his own. Instead, he simply knows all and kind of sees all in regards to the Zanpakuto that go out to the entirety of the Gotei 13. So I really wouldn't be surprised to ever find out that Oetsu doesn't have a Bankai at all. Or he does, and it's going to turn out to be some weird thing where he can use Bankai with an enormous number of blades instead. Either way, I think it's very likely that whatever Oetsu has, it won't be a Zanpakuto in the traditional sense. And then finally, there's the entire original Gotei 13. Now normally, I wouldn't have included them in a video like this until we actually got to see these characters very recently, and suddenly we have an entire set, 11 more characters whose Bankai we have never seen. Now, of course, we don't know really still anything about these guys. We don't know any of their Shikai. We maybe see a couple of them in Katori and Kumoi's Shikai, but outside of that, that's literally it. Now, of course, if there's any chance at all of seeing the abilities and powers of these characters in the future, it will be in the Hell arc if there is one, because they're all dead, presumably, so it's a great chance to bring them back to see what they can do. So that's the only way I think that we will see any of their Shikai and Bankai. It was a blessing already that we had their names, designs, divisions revealed to us, when I thought for the longest time that we would maybe never learn anything about these guys whatsoever. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure they're going to show up again in the 1000 Year Blood War arc anime, although again, I'd absolutely love it if they did. But that's it for the video, guys. I think that's just about every single character left over in Bleach that should have a Bankai, but we have yet to see it. Of course, there are other characters who have the potential to have Bankai. For example, other officers like Izuru, Yumichika, familiar faces like that, maybe they have a Bankai, but as far as I'm concerned, they don't have to have one right now. These are all characters that presumably do have a Bankai that we just never got to see. But let me know down in the comments below if there was A, anyone I missed, and B, which of these characters would you like to see the Bankai of the most, and how do you expect that we will get to see them in the future, if at all. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done already, and until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. I'll see you then.